Assalamualaikum students. So this is where we left off last class. And just to recall a few things, we started the chapter Cell, Tissues and Organs. We talked about what a cell is, which is a basic unit that makes up an organism. We talked about tissues and organs. A group of cells that come together and have a function is called a tissue, and a group of tissues that come together and perform a function is an organ, right? Then we talked about features that are seen in a cell. So in a normal cell, you will see cell membrane, nucleus with organelles like ribosomes, mitochondria, and you will see cytoplasm, right, which is the jelly-like substance. And then we talked about plant cell and animal cell, and how animal cell is differs from plant cell. Animal cell differs from plant cell with certain features, like plant cell has a cell wall which is made up of cellulose material and it keeps the plant cell rigid. We talked about the plant cell having chloroplast, which contains the green pigment called chlorophyll, and that's what it uses to make up the food, right? Which the process is known as photosynthesis. And we talked about a permanent large vacuole in plant cells. That's our examples of specialized plant cells are palisade cells and root hair cells. So I'm going to read you what the paragraph says over here and then explain it. Palisade cells are mostly found in the top surface of leaves. They have a lot of chloroplast to trap sunlight and carry out photosynthesis. So as you can see in a plant palisade cell, there's a large vacuole and there are many chloroplasts around it, right? All of these bundles of chloroplasts. It has a nucleus and it has a cell wall. So they're telling you how palisade cells have all these numbers of chloroplasts to trap sunlight, and it carries out photosynthesis, which is the process by which plants make their own food, right? And then root hair cells. This is another specialized type of plant cells, and you will be surprised to know that root hair cells do not have chloroplast. They do not need chlorophyll as they are mostly found underground and their job is to draw in water and mineral salts from the soil. They are long and thin to provide a large surface area. So this paragraph is telling you that the other type of specialized plant cell, which is called root hair cells, they're found in the bottom of the plant, right? So in the plant hairs that are enrooted in the ground that anchor the plant into the ground, right? They're found in that, and these do not contain chlorophyll or chloroplast or chlorophyll because there's no sunlight reaching inside the ground, right? And their main function is to collect water and mineral salts from the soil. So they do not make their own, like these cells don't make food, they get water and salts from the soil. Now we're going to talk about the specialized animal cells. And just like plant cells, there are specialized animal cells that carry out specific tasks, right? So some animal cells are adapted to carry out complicated tasks within the body. And we have three types of cells here. We have red blood cells, we have nerve cells, and we have ciliated epithelial cells. And basically, the concept of these specialized animal cells and plant cells is that these cells, they have a specific function, and there are no other cells that can do the same job, right? So red blood cells, their special job or function is carrying oxygen around the body in the blood, right? And this is how they change the cells. This is how they change, and this is how they do their job. So that's what adaptation means, right? So red blood cells have no nucleus, and they have a biconcave shape, which gives them large surface area for absorbing oxygen. It contains hemoglobin, which combines with oxygen. So red blood cells, the features of red blood cells, these are really important to remember. They do not have nucleus and they have a biconcave shape, right? So this is the biconcave shape. And because they have no nucleus and because of their shape, they have a large surface area for absorbing oxygen, right? And like आपकी body में जितना भी oxygen हो, it's good for you, right? And red blood cells, they contain hemoglobin, and this is hemoglobin is really important because it binds with oxygen. This is basically red blood cells. Agar they don't have hemoglobin, they're not able to carry oxygen, right? So hemoglobin is important. Not having a nucleus is important, and having a biconcave shape is important, and their function is to give oxygen or carry it around the body in the blood. Then the second type of specialized animal cell is a nerve cell, and it carries messages around the body, right? So their feature is that they're very long and thin, up to 1 meter long. So you can imagine how long that is. And then connections at both ends, and they carry electrical signals. So as you remember, we talked about how nerve fibers carry impulses, right? So carrying messages, carrying electrical signals are just other newer words for carrying impulses, right? So here they're showing you a nerve cell. And notice how it says connection at both ends, right? So that could be pretty confusing. So this is a nerve cell, and it's connected at one end to a muscle, and to the other end with the spinal cord or with the brain, right? And this is the cell body of the nerve cell, and this is its connection that's going and joining with the muscle. So this nerve is going to carry impulses or messages or electrical signals. They're all the same thing. They're going to carry these signals or messages from the brain, and they're going to pass it to the muscle. This is how your brain is controlling your body, right? And then you have ciliated epithelial cells, and over here it says cilia is making sweeping movements, and it has a nucleus and cell membrane. And over here it says tiny hairs called cilia all along the upper surfaces sweep dust and microbes along in the airways, such as the lining of the nose and windpipe, so keeping them clean. Ciliated cells in the oviducts move the egg cells along from the ovaries to the uterus. So basically, our body is covered with epithelial cells, right? And if epithelial cells have cilia on them, cilia are tiny hairs, right? As you can see on top. So if the cells have cilia on them, they have this movement that can move stuff, right? So for example, in your nose, in your throat, you have ciliated epithelial cells. So in your nose, for example, when you're sick and you sniff around, like, so the cilia moves around the dust in your nose, right? And in your throat, for example, when you cough, and there's mucus, so you cough, and the cilia moves the mucus up to your throat so you can spit it out, right? And over here, the other example is ciliated cells in the oviducts that move the eggs along the ovaries to the uterus. So this example is basically for the female reproductive system. As you know, a female has an ovary, um, and when it releases an egg and it needs to move to the uterus, there are ciliated epithelial cells that move the egg along the track, right? So that's pretty simple. Okay, students, so this is your exercise number 1 again for the same um, chapter that we're studying, cell tissues and organs. So you do not have to make a title page. Just write the day and the date and write exercise 1, and you will write the underlined words 3 times. So these are the words that I have underlined that I think are hard. And if there are any other words that you think are difficult, do underline them and write them 3 times. And the date. So the first word is palisade, and that refers to the palisade cells. Then the second word is underground, and the third word is mineral salts. And then as we go down, the other word is biconcave, which is the shape of red blood cells. And then the other word is hemoglobin, which is the material that red blood cells contain, and it combines with oxygen so they can easily transport oxygen around the body, right? And then the other word is connections, and the last word is electrical over here. So now we're on the last part, and the first word is cilia, which refers to the tiny hairs on the epithelial cells, right? And then the other word is sweep, which refers to the action or movement that the ciliated epithelial cells do. And then the other word is microbes, which refers to the tiny bacteria that gets trapped in your throat or in your nose, right? And then the other word is windpipe, and windpipe is just a part of your neck, right? It's part of your throat. and the other word is ciliated, and then the other word is oviducts, and that's so oviducts are just a connection from the ovaries and from so let's say the ovaries release eggs, right? So the eggs are in the oviducts and so in the tube, ducts means tubes, right? So in the tube, and then the tubes contain ciliated epithelial cells, and that helps move the egg from the ovary to the uterus. So that's your other word. And then your other word is ovaries and then uterus. So that's your underlined hard words. And now I'll tell you your question and answers. Please do this exercise before the question answers, and then you write exercise number 2, question and answers, and I'll tell you what those are in a bit. Okay, students, and for your last exercise, you will write exercise number 2 and day and date on the top and write question and answers. So your first question is, where are the palisade cells found? And if you read the chapter properly with me and understood it well, you would know that the answer for that is that palisade cells are mostly found on top surfaces of leaves, right? And then the second question is related to the first one, and it's what's their main function. So by there, we are asking about palisade cells, right? So the answer to that is they trap sunlight and carry photosynthesis. And you might know, or you should know, that plant cells are able to trap sunlight and carry out photosynthesis because they have chlorophyll, right? Or chloroplast. So the continuation of that is as they have a lot of extra chlorophyll. And then your third question is, what do root hair cells not contain? So as you know, root hair cells are in the roots of plant, right? And sunlight doesn't reach underneath the soil. So the answer to that is root hair cells do not have any chloroplast. And you should know that chloroplast contains chlorophyll, which is the pigment that makes the food. So your fourth question is what's their main function? So by there, we're referring to the root hair cells, and the answer to that is their main job is to draw in water and mineral salts from the soil, right? Because they don't have any chloroplast, so they can't make their own food, but what they can do is help the plant with hydration, so by providing water and mineral salts so that the plant is able to grow, right? So your fifth question is describe the adaptations of red blood cells. So when you read red blood cells, you know you're talking about specialized animal cells, right? So the adaptations of red blood cells are really easy to remember. You should know that red blood cells are biconcave in shape and they do not contain any nucleus. They also contain hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen. And your sixth question is what is the main function of red blood cells? So you should know this. Red blood cells, since they contain hemoglobin and it binds to oxygen, this is really important because they're not just binding to oxygen for fun, you know, they're binding to oxygen so they can provide oxygen to the body. So the answer to that is red blood cells carry oxygen around the body. And then your seventh question is what do nerve cells do? And the answer to that is nerve cells carry messages around the body. And your last question is describe the different functions of ciliated epithelial cells. So you know ciliated epithelial cells are present in more than one area of the body, right? Because they're cells. And you will find cells all around your body, but of different kinds. So ciliated epithelial cells have cilia. And just to clarify, cilia is the hair-like projection, right? And the main function of that is which sweeps dust and microbes from the nose and windpipe. They are also present in oviducts. Do not write a. They are also present in oviducts and help in moving the egg from the ovary to the uterus, right? So that's your homework for your specialized plant and animal cells. Please do your homework, and I hope you all understood this chapter well and you read with me. And have a good day. Thank you so much for paying attention. Thank you. Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next class.